What's up, everybody? I hope you are having a great week. Today's topic is a little bit different. I didn't feel led to come on and talk about get a contract this and, really more of the surface um, tips and tricks kind of thing, or even breaking down different examples. I feel like we've done that. And while that is definitely needed, I would be remiss if I did not include in my content or in my body of work, like what I'm walking through and growing through, because I also believe that those stories, those examples are that those examples and those experiences also lead to why and how I move in certain ways. So, I actually do have an example that I recently thought about on this that relates to this topic. So, we have two young adults in our family right now, like college age. And their experiences are night and day right now, right? So one is, very focused and moving in a certain direction and is, you know, seems to be on a great path based upon the work that she's done and just some of the things that she's had along the way and have embraced along the way have set her up to where she is now. Not to say she hadn't gone through any challenges or anything like that, but it's just a very clear difference of how the values and the structure and the um just the personality that she has brought her to this place. And in the same vein, there's another young person that we have that is very brilliant, smart, has a lot going, but the block is more of that structure and that drive and that resilience and things like that. And so the reason I brought up those two experiences is because you could have the same person, right? With the same amount of knowledge, the same amount of, intellect, right? And even in some ways, one person could have more than another. But what truly creates success is not just about the things or the tips or strategies that you know, or the knowledge that you have, the intellect. It's about the values that you have. It's about, how you handle rejection, how you handle navigating new seasons and all of those things. Those are the things that really matter most, more than just what do you know in your head. And so I brought those examples, like those two stories up of the young adults, because I see that just in the world, in those physically right in front of me, what the difference is between knowing all the things. Two people can know all the things. One person can be in a totally different reality than the other because it has to have legs, it has to have meat, it has to have values on it for it to actually work. And I even think in the work that I do in my space, anybody can send an email, anybody can have a conversation, anybody can decide that they want to do this corporate thing and put that title in their bio, right? But it won't work if you don't have the meat attached to it. If you don't understand what it looks like to get a denial, to have to send multiple touch points and all these different things. And I find that even with the people that I work with or people that are even honestly interested, right? Everybody wants the list, right? So everybody wants the contacts, everybody wants this and that. But can I tell you something? And this is not to like embarrass anybody, it's really to just speak about the difference is when I had these conversations, I'm like, okay, you need to be prepared to do this, right? And everybody's prepared. I'm getting caught up in my words. Everybody's prepared and want the access. But do you have the legs and the structure and the meat to be able to move forward with that access? Or are we just going around collecting information? I wasn't even going to go in this particular direction, but I think that's an important place, even for myself, to continue to audit in my process? Am I more interested in seeking the information, or I'm actually going to move it forward? In a lot of those conversations, I'm like, hey, here's how you get access. And it's like, oh, well, I don't have things together. Well, how is it? Can we desire to move forward to the object, to the goal, to the things that we desire to do, but we haven't done the preparation to get there, to be able to seize the opportunity? I'm sure there's many of you that would love to get introduced to my contacts, that would love to be able to get introduced to people who are constantly looking for contract opportunities. But if you're approaching them with, what is it that you're looking for? Which I hear that question a lot, and a lot of corporate decision makers say that. So nobody's above asking that question, because I hear it more often than not from those decision makers, that that's how people address getting in the room, getting a seat at the table. They're wondering, well, what do you have that's in my particular area? Or what is it that, what are the opportunities? And it's all about, how can I get versus building a relationship. So many people, I find, this is literal data, that they say they don't need any structure. They just need, access to get into space. They just need the content, the contacts. But most times when I see people in these rooms, they actually needed that preparation. They actually needed the meat. They needed the legs. They needed the weight. They needed to understand how to navigate certain things, where if you don't have the experience, if you haven't done corporate sales before, if you are one of those people who are like, I never really had a corporate job before, and you've had these opportunities, you've learned how to market, you've done all these things, that is amazing and wonderful. But in stepping into a new territory, there's a cost. And it's not always a cost in terms of, you got to pay to get in this room. Sometimes it's a cost of, I need to slow down to really work out my kinks before I'm talking about how can I get in the room and how can I get the opportunities. So in that vein, one of the things of being a leader, what it's cost me, is number one, being radically honest with myself and willing to take accountability for all of the pieces that I don't know. I know in our world, it is so much easier. And a client, I've been having this conversation several times in several different groups, from family, with my husband, with a client, about how our world has removed so much friction that it makes it difficult for people to actually do the work that it takes to get real success. So in my world, for example, or in our world in general, online, look, all four people didn't drop. But in our world overall, it becomes so difficult to move forward when we don't know how to move past um, denials, when we don't know how to move past having to make multiple touch points, when we can't move past a no, or a not right now, or I didn't get a response. Like, when we don't know how to move through this friction, it stunts our growth. It stunts our ability to actually achieve the things that we desire, because our world is so stuck on the easy button. And it's been iterations of this. This isn't AI isn't the first time. The internet became a place that created less friction. All these things that have happened as our world has evolved, it shrinks our ability to evolve as people if we conform to those structures. So when I think about, like, my world, for example, I find it difficult. I'll be just honest and transparent with y'all. I find it difficult to box myself in to how people market on the internet. Get 5 calls and da 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 in 90 days and do all these things and da da. I find it very difficult to try to conform to that, because to me it's like, okay, that's great. But what happens when, after that pop of excitement happens, right? Do I actually have a system that I can work? Do I actually have something that I can maintain? Do I know even what I did? Or did I just follow the steps that you regurgitated to me, and then it worked? And yeah, hey, confetti falls. But then what am I left with? Another something to buy, another gap that I have to fill. And now I have to figure out how to do that too. I can't rock with that. Like, I can't rock with that. And while I get it, I'm a marketer. I literally have a whole marketing degree. So I understand. And I just said literally, Stacey, I just said the word. I have a marketing degree, so I understand that you have to get in the minds of buyers and what they desire and all those things. But when it comes to building a business or transformation or learning, like, for example, well, some of these colleges do, oh, get your degree in 18 months or whatever. Yeah, that's great. But it's like any prestigious university that's worth its salt, that's actually going to give you the experience that you're looking for to open the doors. And I'm talking about maybe in my time of going to college or before that. I know these days things might shift, but they weren't like trying to entice you with this, oh, you can do it in this amount of time and this and that. Like, no, you knew what you were coming into and you didn't want the shortcuts. So you wanted to actually get the knowledge to build the foundations that you needed so that you could have a successful career. And we didn't mind making that investment. So when it comes to this type of work and teaching and transformation and literally sharing experience that you have put your blood, sweat, and tears into, again, I have a hard time with putting that into a get rich, a short time frame that you can just do this +1 +2 start and get this. Uh, it's much deeper than that. And while learning from somebody definitely collapses time, I don't believe that it should be collapsing your particular result into being this very surface level thing that can't be sustained. I don't know how I got on this, but I'm very passionate about that. And so when it comes to me working with people, and I know it's not the guru thing that's gonna be on the ads and all of that, but it's so important for me to for people to learn how to build this arm of their business and also learn the individual skill sets that it takes to be able to sustain it. And this is a part of, again, what the leader stuff has caught, like what it's cost me to be able to do this or to be able to be in rooms. What has it cost me to actually be able to pitch myself and hold my own skill sets in a new space, or in like way back in the beginning of my career when I was just getting started and I had to be in these rooms and negotiate these deals? It wasn't a 1, 2, 3 step and stir. It wasn't this overnight success. It wasn't this one pop of a deal that kept me going to build a business and then to later build my own business in this particular area. It was the no's. It was the coming back over and over again. It was the ability to pick up the phone instead of hiding behind email. It was the ability to look ridiculous because I didn't know certain things in certain spaces and allow myself to be humbled so I can go back into the next conversation and be about it. That's what it cost. So even when I think about, pitching and sending out emails and stuff like that, and I see people that expect, oh, the first email is going to get answered and this is going to happen and all of this. Yes, that happens, but that's not the longevity. That is not the building of a B2B division of your business. That is not the structure that you want your company to be built on if you're deciding that this is a way that you want to sell and do business. So quick wins are great, but what about sustainability? What about learning the skill sets that even without me, I know some people want you to have them, throughout your entire journey to be there, your not your mouthpiece, but your constant source on what to do next. I don't want that. And not because I don't like people or I don't, I do have this thing of like, Lord, I didn't say I wanted to impact lives and do all this. I just said I wanted to teach the things that I've learned. And I wanted to be the best that I could be at what I do. But I had no intention on changing lives and all of the books. I didn't have any intention of all of that. However, if that is what it takes, and again, another example of what it's cost me, it's cost me my comfort. It's cost me the thought that I could just sit behind this computer. I don't have to do nothing. I can just be over here to now, oh, you're doing an in-person event in September. And I'm like, I didn't say I want to do that. So it cost that comfort. But again, going back to like the emailing and stuff like that, that tenacity to continue to get after it, that tenacity to take a no and still say, well, here's what I'm going to do next, or here's how I'm going to turn this to, the tenacity or the thought process to say, well, they said that this opportunity wouldn't be until this month, but let me figure out what I can do to see how we can get started now. Or what are the steps that I can go ahead and put in place so I know that this is in my pipeline and I can continue to work it and it doesn't fall through the cracks. That mindset is what I want my people to have, even long after they've worked with me. And again, going back to, it's not about, yes, I want to be there as a support. I want to be there to do the things. But as we typically say, like when we go back home, we here for a good time and not a long time. So I'm here for a good time to support, to do the things that I need to do to move you forward, to support you, to guide you, to make good on the promises that I've made. And then when it's time for us to move on, we move on. But I don't want you to feel like you're stalled and you can't move forward. So it's more than just the steps and the tricks and the tactics and the structures and all of that. It's the mentality. It's the thought process. It's the values that I hope you don't have to have my similar values, but I do hope that through our work, that those values, those ways of thinking rub off to the point where you know how to apply it for yourself, where you get on a call and you know what to say, where you see an opportunity and you can kind of borrow the way that I think about things and move it forward. Oftentimes, like when people work with me, they're like, you just know so much off the dome. You could just spit, like I can just put it together an email, or I can put together a proposal just like off the dome, because and it's not even about, because I know a lot of people will take this time to start to gloat about how many years they've been doing and all the things. Yes, it's that, but I do also believe that there is an anointing on me being gifted in this area. Sometimes I can pull things together, and maybe it was something that I did in the past, but the way that it comes through is not based upon anything written in a book, right? It's like, oh, this is what I see here. This is how I would explain this. This is what I would do to move this forward. I could just see it, right? So a part of what I do, that I hope some of that rubs off into how you decide to move forward in your opportunities. Because again, it's not just about having the right things to say. It's not about sending the right emails. Sometimes it's about being able to think on the dome. Sometimes it's about being able to move a person that might be holding something back and go back and say, tell me more about that. You see how it's not so much about what do I put in my package? What do I put in my offers? How do I find contacts? Yeah, you can learn all that and still not do anything. I've seen it. I've seen it several times. I have given people steps for things and haven't even charged them. Some of my content has been literal, exactly what people be asking for, right? And still don't do anything with it, because it's not just about the steps. It's really not. And I think folks would be doing a disservice in any way to tell you that whatever extraordinary things that they have achieved, whatever things that they have mastered, only were about taking 1, 2, and 3 as steps. It costs something. It costs something. It costs willing to be uncomfortable and ask about budgets. It costs willing to be like, I remember sitting on a call with a client and helping her navigate an opportunity that she almost let slip by. And it took me to say, well, wait a minute, you talked about this and let's explore that more. That's not on the script. So I give different tools and guides and all these things, but some of this stuff is not on a script. It's an embodiment. And I have never even thought of that being the description, but it's true. It's an embodiment. If you're there and you're present in the conversation, you know how to navigate and move it. You don't need a script. You don't need to, have someone sitting there to figure out what's the next thing that you need to say. It's embodied, that this is what you do. This is how you sell. These are conversations that you have. And not that everything has to be in your head, but are you fully embodied in who you need to be in this moment how you show up, how you ask questions, how you even powerfully move people through the process, meaning you don't let them run you and continue to keep you in the cycle months and months and months about when they're going to follow up, what's going to happen next, all of that. But are you actually running the opportunity? Those things matter more than just me telling you, okay, you get on the call, you do the proposal, you do this and that, da, da, da. Yeah, you can do all that. But in real life, just like the difference between going to college and actually getting in the role, the steps don't always play out that way. So it costs also me being vulnerable enough to even share what I'm sharing today and even what I share, personally with clients to get out of this, oh, I have to teach them the one, two, threes, but let me actually tell them the truth about the parts that were hard, the times where it did not make sense, the times where I wasn't always getting it right, the times where I let a deal slip through my fingers, the times where I was getting constructive criticism about the way that I showed up in meetings, the times where I said I did this post where I was in a conversation and I said, I may not be the best person to do this, and completely did a whole record scratch in the conversation, putting my own nails in the coffin as to why I wouldn't be the person for this particular opportunity. Yeah, I did that. And without those moments, the steps wouldn't have mattered. Without those moments of learning, then I wouldn't be able to come into conversations today where I'm negotiating and I'm like, oh, I'm definitely the person to be able to support you with this. Here's how this would look. Our company is positioned to be able to provide X, Y, and Z. Because of all of those missteps, because of those times where I have reached out over and over again and it seemed like nothing was moving forward, where I have thought I could quit and had to jump back in, right? And continue again and elevate and go back, reiterate, and all of those things. And so it's cost being able to be flexible, being able to look silly. One thing that I'm so thankful for right now is the shift that I'm seeing within myself, because before I would be so self-conscious. I had this whole perfectionist thing going on, and I would be so self-conscious about looking a certain way. Oh, I didn't look smart. I'm always used to being the smartest person in the class and the person that people want to copy off of. And so when it comes to different things that I'm learning, we can't do that right now. So when it comes to different things that I'm learning, it's like, okay, well, I don't want to be at the bottom and I don't want to experience the friction of that. And I'm thankful because I've grown through that so much, of being like, you know what? It's okay. It's okay. I'm fine to look this particular way. I'm fine to not be on top. I'm fine to not be the smartest person. I'm even fine to not act like and pretend and hide, because I don't want to be seen as that. That's another thing that it costs. I talked about the comfort, but also laying down this idea of perfection, laying down this idea that being an expert means that I have to paint this picture of like, oh, I never made any mistakes, and any mistakes I made, I just got to keep them hidden in the closet. Like, no, I'm free from that, because that type of stuff keeps you in bondage, and it keeps the people who actually need the support, who actually need the breakthroughs, from seeing that, no, this isn't a perfect journey. And this is not just one step, two step, three step, and then you get the beautiful masterpiece that comes out of it. So I am thankful that certain things that really used to bother me, even about myself, or just other things that people used to kind of do, and it would be like, oh, you're trying to, work a nerve, or it would be a trigger for me, that I'm just like, you know what? It's okay. I don't have to be seen as perfect. I don't have to be seen as having it all together. Even when I'm in these conversations, this goes back to the embodiment. When I'm talking to corporate decision makers, I don't have to sound perfect. I don't feel like I'm like this. Okay, let me have my script up, and what am I supposed to say? And I'm like, I'm in the conversation. I'm listening. I'm present, like somebody repeated in the chat, and I'm just figuring out how I can solve their problems. That's it. That's all it is. And even if I miss a step, here's the thing too about the whole embodiment thing too. Even if I miss a step, I'm not upset. I just go back and correct it. Like there was yeah, the opportunity that I'm working on right now. We were having such a good conversation because she was very open, like bubbly. We were having a great conversation. When we got off, I realized that I said I'm going to send her the proposal once we got off. Now that's outside of my typical process. I usually schedule some time to talk through it. So I realized that I missed that. And I was like, oh shoot. So I didn't just say, oh my gosh, the world is ending. Let me just like send her the thing. I was like, no, hey, we were talking so well. I completely misstepped. I usually like to schedule a call so that we can walk through it so that I can be able to answer your questions live. Da, da, da. She's like, cool, we scheduled a call. So a part of this process too that's important to note is even when you know the steps, the embodiment is also being able to move even if the steps don't make sense, even if the steps don't become chronological like they typically are. Like, oh, you send an email, they respond, you book a call and all the things. Well, what if you got to pick up the phone sometimes? I think this probably might be my second time or third time talking about this story, but I was talking about it this week in our pitch accelerator too. Is I picked up the phone and called somebody maybe 2 weeks ago now at this point to discuss my book and doing workshops as it relates to get corporate clients now. Had an amazing conversation. It was an amazing connection to even more spaces and opportunities that I wasn't even thinking about because I'm not tied down to a particular way of doing things. Systems and processes are great, but I'm under the belief that sometimes we got to disrupt those things. And sometimes we have to have the skill set that's expansive enough to be able to have that intuition kick in to do different things. Because what an email could do, a phone call could actually do better with some people. What LinkedIn is great at doing, being in the room could actually accelerate it even more. So even when I'm talking through my processes with clients, I show them how there are different ways to create those kickoff points where you build those conversations. And that's why I said sometimes in the beginning, it's challenging for me to kind of like box things in. I know that when it comes to like people doing certain things, it's like, oh, I did 1, 2, 3, and I can just show you how to do that. And then you just go be another them. And sometimes, okay, that's great. I don't, I'm not against that. But what I'm saying is with my particular work and the way that I just see things, it's more nuanced. And I think it's value for you to spend money with me if you're actually going to learn how to think versus learning a rigid process. Because every single corporate opportunity is not going to follow a rigid process. And if they say, like, for example, if I tell you when they say green, you do this, and then all of a sudden they say red, and you just completely spiral out and don't even know how to take red for the next step, that's not a benefit. That's not a benefit. So when you work with me, my system and my processes is not about how do you just learn something that you can just, be a robot and just kind of walk through the steps and do. It's more of how do you embody the thinking of a person who sells to corporations? How do you embody the actions or the conversations? How do you show up for the love of all that is holy? Don't nobody else show up to no corporate thing talking about what opportunities do you all have for X, Y, and Z. Please don't. I know everybody on here is not working with me, but you're at least listening to this live. Don't show up saying that because I hear it too much. And that's a sign to me that we don't understand how to think like a person who does this versus a person who's looking to figure out what opportunities could be next for them. That doesn't work in this space. And I know it's often a default to feel like, well, what else do I ask? And that's the point. You want to learn the process of how to move in these spaces, which why when people work with me in a longer term, it's it's more meatier because you get to actually not only walk through what these opportunities look like from start to finish, but you begin to start thinking differently. You begin to start seeing opportunities differently. I might have shared this when it happened, but even for me, my thought process gets me in different spaces that I hadn't even thought of. To be speaking with a streaming network about how some of the creatives and filmmakers can get corporate partnerships to sponsor their films. Now, it's not the same as working with you guys to get into trainings and workshops and all those things in terms of what you're offering. But my process in terms of connections and having a system and process on how to sell to organizations, how to market to them, that all remains the same no matter what you're selling. So that gift can be in different spaces. I talk with people who, yeah, they want to do this corporate stuff. And then I'm like, oh, do you know you also have a university play? Same method in terms of marketing and selling to them, just a different in customer, a different need. And once you understand how to uncover needs, how to position your value, how to ensure that you know how these buyers think, you could literally sell in any space. You can move and flow. It's not just about one particular client. You could see an opportunity over here to sell a course or to sell your book. And once you master the sales and marketing concepts, the infinite return kicks in. So I'm gonna wrap this up because I didn't even know we was going in this many different directions. But what being a leader has cost me has been the comfort, has been the desire to act and be in perfection, the desire to lean solely on simplified steps versus intuition and embodiment, and actually recognize those things. And I don't know if any of you may be like me and have grown up in the corporate world, but a lot of that mentality is things that I'm consistently working through, because in corporate, everything is about the hard facts and the receipts. If you can't show it, it doesn't have any weight. There is no real room for embodiment. It's facts. It's what do you prove? Like, what is your experience? What is the hard, black and white? And sometimes in this particular space, as an expert, as a leader, as an entrepreneur, as a person who's running a business, whatever the case may be, what I have learned is it's not so much about that hard facts. Yes, everybody assumes and knows that if you are out here doing something and you're being any lick of success with it, you got to have some kind of salt in what it is that you're doing, right? Some people don't, but I don't like to speak to negativity. I'm just going to say the people that I know and the people that I keep around me and myself, that's a given. But what really is the next level and what it means to be a leader is also building that intuition muscle and letting that flow, letting that be okay. That no, I don't have to pull this out and say, oh, here it is right here in black and white. I just know it and it works. It gets results. And I don't necessarily have to have a manual or a book to prove that it does. The results prove that it does. So it's cost that level of thinking. And I think to tie this into the corporate contract space, or just expansion in general into different spaces and what we're looking to create in our next iteration of ourselves, it has to involve more than steps. It has to involve more than access. We need to ask ourselves deeper questions about what exactly are we embodying? And when we're learning these things, are we just looking to learn the hacks, the secret steps? Or do we actually want to learn the thought process? Do we want to learn what that embodiment truly means so that we can have the longevity of building something that actually stands? There's no need for me to help people build a corporate side of their business that is basically like a tree house. One good wind can take it away. One no can take it away. One moment where you have to send people, 3 emails is the thing that's going to get you to quit, right? I don't want that. because it's going to happen. It's going to happen that everything will not just be microwave. And so while yes, we want to get those immediate results in the door, I'll be honest with you, that's not my ultimate goal. I know that's the goal of everybody, and even me, when we're investing, we're like, okay, we want to see what that ultimate, that initial thing is going to be. But my goal for the people I work with is bigger than that. I actually have a goal that's like way bigger in the future of like seeing my people land multi six-figure contracts, seeing my people working with brands that they didn't think were possible before, seeing my people in rooms doing their thing, teaching, talking, guiding, and all of that just being in their zone. And they've never been in corporate before, but now all of a sudden they're like this, highly sought after keynote speaker or workshop facilitator, whatever it is. That's what I see. And ultimately, I see that creating a business where you can take these sabbaticals. I've seen people saying, they've taken a year off their business. And I know there's many different ways that you can do that. But to me, when I think of corporate contracts and corporate opportunities, I'm like, this can be the trajectory. This can be the change. This can be the thing, just like me, that allowed me to, navigating and learning these skills, move to my dream city, move to my dream home. It's continuing to build a life for me of what I desire, what I dream about, what I desire to do next for my family, for my son, for those around me. That's like my vision and what I see in the people that I work with. How can this help them live the life that they truly desired? How can this help them see themselves in a way that they never saw themselves before? I have people who are like, I never thought this even had a space in corporate. I never even knew that I could have, this type of thing. Or people who may have had corporate horror stories where they were employees and now they get to go back and make their own rules. Yes, ma'am. Make them, get in there, show them. Yes. So that's the vision. That's what I see. And that is, I believe, what it costs to actually have true success in this space. The steps and the wins and all of that are great, but are you embodying it? Do you think like the person who does this? If one particular thing doesn't necessarily work out as planned, are you able to navigate it successfully with or without me? Because I want you to have the full process to be able to run and to be able to have those embodiment pieces that you do without me. If so, then we have a win. All right, y'all. So I saw a whole lot of people on here and I saw some comments too. I'm going to come back and acknowledge them because I appreciate the engagement that was here throughout our conversation. I hope something here blessed you. If it has, share it in the comments because I'd love to hear it. I know, like I said, it was a few people on here for quite a while. So if something here kind of touched you or just made you think about things differently, share it with me because I'm in a space right now where again, if you were on earlier, I talked about it. I was like, I didn't feel like I was a person who was called to change lives or do all these different things, but I'm starting to see that. And I've been asking for more like revelations on what that truly is. And I know that there are some people who they might have got my book and, they might be reading it on the side and I don't even know, but to hear that will help me to understand how impactful this work is, because it's not just about making more money. For me, it's not just about the contract. It's about what the contract creates for our lives, what the contract creates for how it doesn't work in us. Like if y'all didn't take anything out of this, selling to corporations did a work in me that I could have never done in any other space. Being a leader did a work in me. Having this business, teaching these things, going through it, learning through it, and then having to develop a space where I could actually teach it and show it to other people has done a work in me. It's done a work in my ability to do things even outside of this particular space. And I know it's done it for others as well. One of my clients in particular, I remember her saying, like, a part of why I won this $25,000 grant, it wasn't related to corporate contracts, but the confidence that she had in speaking about her business and the visions created the confidence to win that grant. So learning these skill sets and this mindset and this embodiment does a work in you to elevate you to your next. I stand on that because I know it's what it did for me. Because I know that had it not been pushed for me to have those conversations and pushed for me to have those those moments of resilience, I would have been fine with status quo. If I hadn't learned the skill sets, I would have been fine with staying where I was instead of fully pursuing this vision of spreading this message. I wouldn't even be sitting here today. I could have stayed at, doing the things that I was doing. But these skill sets called me up to a different version of myself that I did not anticipate on having. All right. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. All right. So I'm glad I see some comments in the chat. Needed this inspiration today. I love it. I hope that this, again, like I said, has blessed you and that you will leave, your points of distinction or things that have come up for you in the comments. So again, I can be able to see that and stand with you on it. But the time is now. The time is now to begin whatever it is. Like, of course, if it's corporate contracts and it's something that you've been called to and you've been feeling like this impact is for you, you know that this is a space that you need to be in, then you already know what you need to do. That's a given, right? You have someone here that's been pouring into you. If you're connected, if you're here, then you know, and I trust you to know what the next step is for you. But the important thing is, whatever it is, whoever it is, what it is, even if it's just you taking the steps that you already know to do, the time is now to do it today, and recognize that the costs along the way are actually the things that are doing the work in you to achieve the things that you desire. So go forth, be amazing, be great in these spaces, be impactful. Learn and see and recognize and have a tuned ear and a tuned eye to not just the physical, but what it's actually doing in a grander scheme in your life, personally, emotionally, financially, all the things, because I believe that you'll be more grateful for it. I wasn't too grateful for this skill when I first started my business. I said I was ending, but I wasn't all that grateful. I didn't even think like I was going to be using the skills from my corporate career into my business. No, I was like, no, I'm doing something totally different. I'm leaving all that behind. That was grind. That was all the things. But then when I recognized, no, this is what people need. And not only is this what they need, like these skill sets, but they also need the embodiment, but they also need, the clarity that gives them structure to build not only this part of their business, but other areas. And it can change, the insides and the way that you think. And as I'm sharing the values and what it cost me and the shifts, that it wakens something else up in you that is worth more than a singular contract. Then this is work that we got to continue to do and talk about. All right, y'all have an amazing rest of your Wednesday. Share your takeaways in the chat, especially if you just popped on. You might want to run this back. This was more of a softer, but very important conversation to talk about like what's really behind the steps in the process and really what I feel is most valuable about this work that I do and how the work that you do needs to continue to be impactful and in spaces that you may not have that you thought about, but you haven't yet focused on. All right. If this called you and you know that you need support, you already know where to find me in the DMs. We can have a conversation, but take what you need from this and move forward in action. All right. Y'all have a good one.